stand my ground with the words of the founders echoing around. Liberty's flame in my veins, burning bright. I hold to the rights that we fight for each night. I'm a constitutionalist through and through, proud of this nation, the home of the true. Values that bind us from sea to shining sea, family, faith, and the land of the free. Hearts full of grit with a spirit that's real.
Well, folks, I'm excited to be here. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist. Big change of plans. I was supposed to have a congressional candidate on today, and I have no idea what actually happened because they're not responding. Hope everybody's okay. If they're not, it was completely disrespectful. But, you know, we're rolling through it. We're going to have a little more fun today. It won't be such a formal interview. My producer, Phil Vill.
Hey.
He will be jumping in and helping me stumble through. You know, it'll be like a three-legged race because neither one of us has full range of motion, but it might be a lot of fun.
We go. Great. Welcome to the spontaneous, the improvised stuff. No, I thought you were going to have Joe Rogan on or something like that because you had like a big guest. We welcome.
Well, not quite as big as Joe Rogan, but I don't know that Joe Rogan knows that I exist.
And you were talking about you would love to have maybe interview the Newsom, the milk the cow guy himself.
I would both love to and hate to because I know that Newsom immediately would. I mean, he is the ultimate spin doctor.
Spin, blend. He
used car salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Willing to promise anything. Willing to lie about details. Folks, our country's done if Newsom's elected president.
Yeah, they could try to cheat themselves. But yeah, there's some great things you've done on Newsom. You had some memes you've released, tens of thousands of views at times.
Yes. Well, you know, Newsom earns it.
What were some of those ones that they're kind of the most ones you like and the ones that kind of were getting a lot of traction out there?
One was about where he made one statement and then the new Newsom's made a completely polar opposite statement. And you just never know what to believe with Newsom.
Wow, I was kind of fishing on one of your producers, your favorite producer, pretty much your only producer, made some AI videos of some Newsom and his
Well, Newsom
AI.
does make quite a magical fairy princess.
Yes, that one. That was a good one. My daughter, she's 6 years old, and she's like, "What is that? Is that a boy or a girl?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a great question. That's what he poses himself." But yeah, I'm ready for today. You're looking to get some great content out there. You know, a smorgasbord of topics, and we're not playing stump the host. We're gonna get a wide range of topics, including from local here in the Valley, including the state, and maybe pose some national questions because there's always things.
There's
happening.
always look. The thing about politics is it's how we decide what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, how we want our government to rule our everyday lives. And I don't I personally want government to rule our everyday lives in as limited a way as possible. But really, that's where the debate happens. So the idea that a lot of people don't want to discuss politics is a problem.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that the left and the right identify a lot of the same problems. Where we differ so much is in the solutions. For instance, everybody in California seems to think there's an affordability crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, except maybe the rich elite like Gavin Newsom, who just bought an $11 million mansion, his second mansion, as he talks about we're the fifth largest economy, but we also have basically the highest poverty rate.
And a housing crisis.
And a housing crisis, and a homeless crisis, and a bullet train crisis, and a fraud crisis, and a debt crisis.
Yep. Well, I see a common theme there. Something happening. When we talk about our own impact in our own pocketbook, my household, the gas, the PG&E keeps on going up. I pay a true bill every year, $3,000 to $4,000. I had to make a payment arrangement, and I have to do that every year, actually 2-3 years in a row. And thank God, some things happen. I'm like, oh, let's just pay it off. We got something. But before that, every year. Oh, and by the way, we have the solar thing that they were pushing. We bought that. We paid quite a bit on that. I have a monthly payment on that. And then you take the monthly payment for PG&E plus the regular PG&E. I'm pretty much paying the same, more, I think, from before solar.
Well, the problem is your solar is only going to last at the outside probably 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't pay you much of anything for it.
Yeah.
If you have a backup battery, you can use it and help offset some of your PG&E costs. But I don't know that it's the good deal that everybody talks about. It is cleaner, but we don't really have recycling facilities for when that solar has to come down. In other words, it's not a perfect solution. And if California just got off this green energy scam and would do things like realize that hydroelectric power is clean energy.
Yeah.
Now, you might object to creating a new dam with hydroelectric, but we've got existing dams. It's not going to change. They're up in the mountains, really close to here, from an hour to hour and a half away, depending on which one you go to. And because of regulations, we don't count that as part of our clean energy. And they've mandated that a certain amount of all energy produced in California through the quasi-government, quasi-private organizations like SoCal Edison and PG&E, just a couple others in California, but those are the two main ones. We have to pay more because the truth is wind and solar, they cost more. And now, rather than just make this shift I talked about by acknowledging that hydroelectric energy, in other words, spinning a turbine as water comes out of a dam, is clean energy. Our infinitely brilliant group of legislators in Sacramento has decided that what we really need is hundreds of feet tall, on pontoons, floating windmills out in the ocean.
Yeah. Killing all
there's
the
our
seagulls.
solution.
There you go. Yep. Maybe we should do like the Flintstones, the ancient times, just sit in bikes and just roll and try to get our own power. Yeah.
Well, they want to put us all in bikes and walking. They don't want us in cars.
That bugs me. I drive around now the valley here, Fresno and Clovis area. They removed so many lanes from that measure they tried. I think they lost it now. Was it $61 million? Or
what's happening with Measure C?
Yeah, that one up there. Yeah, and they're removing more lanes, creating more congestiveness and driving, more people waving at me with the middle finger. And it's just more chaotic, and it's growing in Fresno, the valley, and building more housing. Mm-hmm. Why are they removing these lanes?
Well, that's a state mandate. Again, in their infinite wisdom, Sacramento decided it was better to have bike lanes, and they're trying to force you onto either public transportation or bike lanes.
I don't see any bikes. I may see a squirrel off to the side just trying to get across.
My mom lives just off of Palm. For the local people, just bear with me. Local people will know. Everybody else, bear with me for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I drive that every week, and I drive about 2 miles of it. And I average seeing one bike rider a month.
Yeah.
Driving it 4 times a week.
I look for bikes. I talk to the wife all the time. I've been complaining for years. Hey, wasn't this 2 other lanes on each side? Mm-hmm. And then they have a middle lane and for only like 2 or 3 houses. Why are you doing that? It's just
because of government mandate. Yeah. Because we've got an elected that believe they know better. They understand the will of the people, and they're willing to use the power of government to tell us what to do. They don't want local control. Speaking of that, we have a couple local politicians that have decided they don't want local control either. That would be the mayor of Fresno and the mayor of Clovis.
Yeah, okay.
They both wrote to our legislature when our Measure C, this is our roads fund, got put off. It went before the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors said, no, we need an impact report on this. We'll put it on the March election. We don't want to have it on the November because there's not enough time. They didn't get it to us in time. There's a review process that's supposed to happen, and there wasn't enough time to get it on the November ballot. Look, in California, we're going to be voting in 4 or 5 weeks.
So we didn't.
Starting with early voting.
You tell me, didn't the Fresno County supervisors just sue the state?
Okay, so
Is that
they decided they weren't doing it.
Yeah.
And then our 2 great mayors, Mayor of Fresno, who I don't even think is worth mentioning the name, and then somebody I know quite well who is running for supervisor, Vong Manatua, decided that he did not believe in local control anymore. Now, he's told me to his face he believes in local control, but his actions tell me, why is he even bothering to run for supervisor? All he has to do is just say, oh, Lord Newsom, oh, the legislature in Sacramento, please tell me what to do. We were only looking at a few months where we did not have these Measure C monies to fix our roads.
Yeah.
Now, there's some real problems with this current measure. Maybe it's the best we could get, but it focuses on not high traffic roads, where thousands of people might be passing every day. It focuses on less used roads. I have a problem with that. It focuses on bike lanes. If you want to expand an existing road, you have to put in bike lanes, which means your expansion will be null and void by the time you put in the bike lanes. Let's say you add a lane, but you took away a lane for the bike lanes. That's how it's written.
I remember Ashley Swearingen talked about years ago.
You mean the hardcore leftist job? Who's married to the trans woman?
What?
Yeah. Okay. Ashley Swearingen. Yeah. Our former mayor of Fresno. I live in Clovis, thank goodness. Married to the trans woman. Yeah.
Okay.
She's a hardcore leftist, and she wants to put everybody in buses and make everybody get on a bike or walk.
I remember her pushing the bike lane thing back in the day before they started making the changes, and I didn't know what that fully meant in the impact. Fast forward.
It means that she thoroughly believes that your choice should be taken away, and that the good little liberals can tell us how to live our lives. I think we should have local control. And if I lost in a particular community and I didn't get what I wanted, guess what? If we have local control, I could move to the town next door that was maybe doing something different.
Yeah. So
Vong Manatua does not want local control. He went and ran or whined and sent a letter to a local assemblywoman who gutted and amended a health care bill. I want to point out that Vong is representative of a basically a hospital.
Yeah.
And she gutted and amended, meaning she took an existing bill on healthcare that would have helped our rural hospitals that is desperately needed in California.
Yeah.
And rewrote all the language, just pulled out all of the existing language. I don't know how this is even legal, but apparently in California, any sort of scam is. And Vong participated in screwing over local hospitals, giving up local control. Shame on you, Mayor Manatua. I'm going to move on from that one because I don't know what else to say besides shame on you, Vong. Okay. I expect better.
Yeah.
We need better.
So
you don't have my vote specifically because you gave up local control. I would have considered it, but not after this.
You mentioned Jerry Dyer, the mayor of Fresno.
No, I never mentioned him by name because I really don't believe in Jerry Dyer.
So some are saying, let me see where you stand on this. Mayor, he flipped on the city only tax multiple times just in 1 week. Is that like what's something you hear? Do you think he's flip-flopped so many times you don't know which way he stands on the taxes?
I think he desperately wants the taxes. Otherwise, the city of Fresno would not have come up with its own, essentially, tax measure for the roads. The scary part is we've had this tax measure now for 30 years?
Yeah.
40 years? It's 30, I think. And the roads really haven't improved. They're slightly worse than they were when it was first implemented. There's this index that they go through that basically measures the conditions of the roads. Mm-hmm. How many cracks, how many potholes, is it smooth, is it wide enough, are the lines still painted right, things like that. And after a 50-cent sales tax for years, millions and millions and millions of dollars, it's in worse shape, not in better shape. And now they're telling us, well, we need to do this all over again. It's like the definition of insanity.
Yeah. I
want a Measure C that focuses on roads, 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 and roads. And then after the roads, well, if there's a little bit of extra money after the roads are taken care of, let's give it to local control, not run to Sacramento. Give it to local control And if they want a bike path, if they want a walking path, if they want to focus on transportation, meaning public transportation, which is here locally always empty and always losing money. Clovis not near as bad. Clovis is essentially returned to pre-COVID numbers, which Fresno has not. But every time I see a bus, I make a point of trying to count how many passengers. And it's highly unusual, Fresno or Clovis, to come up with anything above 5 people on a bus.
Yeah, it gets crazy here in the traffic, and they want to make it more like San Francisco and LA. Come on.
But we don't have that density.
We don't. But can I shift really quick here? I'm
Sure.
curious on something here. Okay, this is about data center. So it's kind of coming a little more local here. If you heard in Tulare and Kings County, they're looking maybe to putting some AI data centers. So who should get first claim on Valley Water, farmers or tech companies?
I think water, though data centers are not going to be stopped. They're going in somewhere. If you don't let them in your community, they're coming in the next door's community. It's not just water though. It's also power.
Mm-hmm.
If we have so little power that on a hot year, it's not uncommon for Lord Newsom, long may he reign, to come down and say, hey, you need to not charge your electric vehicle, which I mandated you get. And I need you to not use your AC. Here it's not just hot, it's, sometimes 110. Now all of a sudden we've got this new demand on power. Something's got to give. What, am I supposed to live without air conditioning at all? Maybe that's the solution, according to Lord Newsom, though I'm betting his mansion, it's going to be well air conditioned whenever he's there.
So, sorry, I was doing a producer thing here, trying to make sure we got our things behind the scenes here. Okay, so I haven't heard about this one. You probably heard about, I guess, a trustee, Keisha Thomas.
Oh yeah, the one that got caught for lying about.
Tell us about it.
About essentially a coach. She claimed that a coach used the N-word to her son, and then eventually got caught and admitted that she was lying. Yet she's now running against Joaquin Arambula for Fresno City Council. That's kind of crazy. And the fact that anybody's taken that woman seriously. Yes, she's a trustee for Fresno Unified, but she went out of her way to lie about a district that she wasn't in, that her son was there. And the reason I'm purposely using the word lie is because she's now admitted, I was full of it. And she has so much gall that she's not hiding her face and running away in shame. Of course, I guess she sees the example of people like Maxine Waters and Governor Newsom, where they just tell bold-faced lies and then they just keep going and they think everybody will believe them. When are we going to have had enough of this? As much as I don't like Joaquin Arambula, at least he's smart and consistent. I believe very wrong in the things he's consistent about, but at least he's smart and consistent. So I would never vote for Keisha Thomas if I was in Fresno. I'm in Clovis. And I would almost say you should vote for Joaquin Arambula. Not a fan, but hey, I'd take somebody that's consistent and has a value system rather than somebody that I just don't believe in. I was also at a Fresno Unified School District's school board meeting, and actually I've been at quite a large number of them, not much recently. And Keisha Thomas did things like, when I was speaking, there was a time when she was speaking so loudly to the other trustee next to her that I stopped, and she had to be shushed, so she's not particularly respectful. I've been there when somebody walked up and was speaking about something she didn't like, and so she magically had to go to the bathroom. Some nights she'd have to go to the bathroom 3 times because she didn't want to listen to their speech. I've also been there when somebody, a good friend of mine who's been on this show many times, Ted Laurent, got up and he as he's walking up to the podium, he chooses, because it's the public's time, you can do whatever you want, to sing Amazing Grace. Keisha Thomas and one other trustee, I believe it was Isla, Viva Islas, got up and ran the other direction.
What? For Amazing Grace?
For Amazing Grace.
Well, must be something inside. She's making her run out the room.
I don't know what her motivation was, but it was. I watched it happen. By the way, you can find any Fresno Unified School District meeting on YouTube, so there's a public record.
We got to check that one out. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question regarding homelessness here. So we see you talked about before with a lot of guests, but where's Eric stand on? The city keeps on saying homelessness is getting better. Well, I don't know about that, but the anti-camping ordinance hasn't moved the needle much. So
it's moved it a little bit, and it has to do with whether they're willing to enforce. So go ahead and finish making.
No, I would say what's the actual solution you see?
Okay, so Clovis doesn't have many of the problems because they're willing to enforce.
There we go.
They have a large enough, strong enough police force that if a homeless person acts up, they take care of it.
Yes.
They will show up. They will deal with it. I'm not saying Fresno doesn't want to deal with it. I'm saying Fresno has a huge gang problem. They've got more problems and more to deal with. And so officers are spread a lot more thin. In Fresno, if you have a very real problem, say with your neighbor, if it doesn't come to blows and there's not like threat of serious violence, say just your neighbor vandalized your car.
Yeah.
Took a hammer to it, but didn't touch you, didn't threaten you. Fresno PD will eventually show up after hours, and Clovis will be there, and they will probably have 3 cars because they don't want to put up with any nonsense. They realize that dealing with petty crimes, small things, immediately creates a different environment. And in effect, because of that, Clovis is one of the safest cities in California.
Yeah. Even on Sundays when I go to church, we kind of get off the ramp there, off the 180, around the tower, between the tower, downtown, kind of around that area. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of encampments all right there. You see them defecating right there.
And that's a public health crisis.
Yeah, and that's, right there in front of the stores, merchants, and where a lot of business is taken care of. But other businesses are being taken care of. You see people walking the streets trying to, lure people in. Mm-hmm. And also, too, they're camping out where in front of the stores. I don't get it. It just
what happened to those business people's rights?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to public safety? Look, in LA, it's gotten so bad that the Black Plague has shown up many times in homeless encampments. Now, with modern medicines, it's not the huge deal it used to be, but conditions have to be pretty bad to get the Black Plague. Black Plague killed a huge percentage of the population of Europe in, what was that, about
1600s?
16, yeah.
Is that what they call the Dark Ages or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I believe that you have to be proactive, that homeless need a set of rules. The idea, and this idea comes from Gavin, from Lord Newsom, before he was ordained as a full king, when he was just running as part of the Getty legacy, meaning the rich Getty family, richest family in California for a long time. He's part of that legacy. And he ran for San Francisco city councilman, then he ran for mayor. And at each level, 8 years as city councilman, 8 years as mayor, 8 years as lieutenant governor, and we're just wrapping up his 8 years as governor. At every step, he said, I'm going to fix homelessness. And the thing we need to do is housing first. Not deal with their issues, not create a system where there's accountability for their actions, but just house them first.
Well, let me correct the record here. The Black Death hit Europe 1347 to about 1351. Just quick, man, it killed 30 to 60% of Europe's population. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah, I did not know that.
Well, that plague is in LA, and since homeless seem to be able to travel, it might be coming to a town near you.
Wow.
So this idea of housing first doesn't work if you don't address the homeless issues. Now, there are the temporary homeless that move in and out, and with a little bit of help, they can improve their situation. And I don't see just that because they're off the streets, that's the big improvement. I see the big improvement as whether they could become employed, whether they can become tax-paying citizens and be part of our civil society, or just somebody that, they're sucking on the government teat.
Okay, so the Constitutionalist podcast here, I want to ask you a question regarding it. So what is the most unconstitutional thing California has done maybe in the last 5 years, in your opinion?
I think the universal mail-in balloting is probably the thing that's done the most damage. It's a little questionable how unconstitutional it is, but I think it's the thing that has done the most damage because it's made our election system the most vulnerable. If you look around Europe, and the ruling elite in California like to talk about how Europe is the example. We should be more socialist like Europe. We should move in that progressive liberal way. Guess what?
What's that?
There's this shocking thing. If you go to France, England, Sweden, and there's a whole bunch more, Germany, the vast majority of countries in Europe only allow exceedingly limited mail-in balloting. So,
because they know
it's too easy to cheat. And the other thing that's happened in the last 5 years, it's 30 days to vote, 30 days to count. And some counties could get that count done faster and are getting that count done significantly faster, but they're not allowed to publish because of our corrupt Secretary of State that says, oh, no, these are the rules and you can only publish. And this is something that just recently came to light. You can't publish your results until the bigger counties do. Well, the bigger counties take 30 days. Now, California is 40 million people. France is, I think, like 25 million people. France in one day has their election results and takes California 30. Now, you think there might be a problem there?
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Or India. Why, India has, 1 billion people, roughly?
Crazy amount.
They have more people than China. And they have a whole lot of rural areas, a whole lot of poverty. A whole lot of India doesn't have good roads, doesn't have good transportation. And it still took India, if there's problems, maybe there's a power outage, it might take them 2 days to get their election results for something national. India can do it, but California can't? Oh, there's no problem here. Come on. So if your vote doesn't mean anything, then you don't have your First Amendment rights. You don't have your voice. In effect, every vote that's cheated cheats you out of your voice. So our whole system is predicated on the idea that government is accountable, government are servants, there should be divided government. But if my vote doesn't determine what happens, if the voice of the individual is stomped on, like Lord Newsom has decided through his greatness, that the little peons should only have the voice that he tells them they should have.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest one that worries me the most. But I want to point out that Lord Newsom also set up a fund.
Of what?
He set up a fund for media so that government now would have control of media.
Propaganda.
Right.
They're always
He's
trying to
basically set up his own propaganda arm. He also reached out during COVID and threatened all of the big social medias. In this case, mostly Facebook and X, which was Twitter before that. It was Twitter when he threatened. He was a big part of that threatening. Well, they're saying things I don't like during COVID. Well, you can't say things I don't like. Well, without the First Amendment and without the Second Amendment to back up your First Amendment rights, and without all of those next 3 amendments, well, quartering soldiers number 3, 4 and 5, 4, 5, 6 are about enumerating your rights in certain ways and kind of limiting the government. Newsom trampled on all those. He wants to talk about a democracy. We don't have a democracy, folks. Thank goodness we don't have a democracy. We have divided government called a representative republic. It protects the rights of the minority. It divides the powers of government in multiple ways, meaning between the legislature, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and makes it difficult for big changes to happen. In other words, mob rule can't happen. And that's what they want. They want mob rule. All of the golden children, everybody that seems to be the most exciting to the base in the Democratic Party, they're all democratic socialists that don't believe in capitalism. And they want a pure democracy because they want you to vote yourself. They want you to choose to vote yourself into poverty because that's what happens with true socialism. Oh, and they want the government to control all large industries. In other words, to own all large industries and to abolish private property. Oh, wait, no, they're not socialist. That's communist. I got a little confused there because, they lied to you about what they actually are.
And that's dangerous. So what would you think is more dangerous, federal overreach or California's own government here?
It's always a balancing act. I live in California, so I'm currently most worried about California, but that could shift.
Yeah.
Look, both parties have authoritarian tendencies and they think they know best, and our electeds often think they know best. For my lifetime, I've felt a lot more comfortable with the Republicans on a national level. Here at a state level, I am not as confident in them because they don't tend to take bold stands. Maybe that shifted a little bit with this current chair, Corinne Rankin. But the previous one, I didn't think I had a bold stand. And the one previous to that, no. And it's been a long time since the California Republican Party took bold stands. They don't really want to stand for anything. Instead, they want to wash down, be Democrat light, is what I saw a lot of. And I think that we need a contrast. And in California, because we've failed to take bold stands, meaning the Republicans at large, this isn't any particular individual, we have moved ourselves into a place where we're in the minority. Not just a minority. We're in a super minority because the Democrats are in a super majority, meaning they can pass anything they want through either house, either the state Senate or the state assembly, without a single Republican vote, which means bad ideas can bubble up and get passed through, and the Republicans got nothing to say. Here's our opportunity. We've got voter ID on the ballot. We've got Prop 13 protections on the ballot. We've got a ballot initiative that will force cities and states and counties to get 2/3 to pass a tax measure rather than just 50 plus 1. It's not even 51%. It's 50% plus one more vote.
Wow. Okay, so I have a question here. I'm curious. So you've met a lot of politicians, not just here in the studio, but out there in the community from a distance, up close. You have many conversations. You see the news. You're on Twitter, all these things. So I am just curious here. When was the last time you saw a politician actually take responsibility instead of blaming the other side?
I don't even have to go back very far. There's a politician I rather like that takes bold stands. I've had her on this show, Diane Pierce. She says what she thinks. She communicates quite eloquently. She stands for things. People know when they elected her that here's where she stands. There's not a bunch of gray area. You know that she is going to take on these things because she's told you, and then she does it.
Yeah.
But she's very much the exception. Mostly what I get is politicians that say things like, I believe in local control, like Mayor of Clovis, Vong Manatua, and then his actions tell me, no, I don't believe in local control. I don't know why he'd ever run for higher office. All he has to do is just ask Sacramento.
Okay, so speaking of politicians you've met, what is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard a politician say with a straight face?
That would be Lord Newsom.
That's an easy one for you guys.
And he told us that we had the safest election and that what he cares about is counting everybody's vote. Well, maybe he believes that, but if we've got a system where it's so easy to cheat, I could go to the Secretary of State's website, not have to give any ID, make up 5 fake profiles, have them sent to, it could be a P.O. box, it could be any number of places. Heck, there was, what was it, like 25 of people signed up to vote at an empty lot that had a porta potty.
Whoa. Okay.
This was in L.A.
Yeah.
This was in the news. I think it was 25 people, but
Yeah.
more than 20 at a porta potty. That's the only existing structure on this piece of property. So I don't know how they got that mail delivered, but yikes. Or we could look at what's happening with homeless being paid either cigarettes or a few dollars for fake voter profiles that they sign. They're not real. They're made up. So those aren't legitimate voters. And he's talking about protecting every vote. I think we need to protect every legitimate vote.
Okay, I'm sneaking in a few quick ones here. Okay, I don't know how to ask this, but so have you ever seen, or is there an issue, any issue, where you think conservatives are actually wrong? I've heard you speak like neocons and certain things, national, some people have been more about the personality versus the policy. They don't call their own side out. So kind of see that little dynamic there?
I definitely see that dynamic. Because we're in a team sport, we tend to, meaning you're in one party or the other. There isn't a legitimate third party. So you have to, I think during the primaries is the time to have that real fight. And then when you get to the general, you take the best you can get. In other words, you fight like hell before. In the primaries, you're picking candidates, and then you take the best you can get afterwards. Now, that kind of lets the people down.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, Trump said, we're not going to have wars. Well, largely he did that, and we have had very few casualties in Iran, but that's a big mess. Am I saying that I think he shouldn't have gone? If I looked at it just by itself, I'd go, I don't know that we're any worse off than we were before. Before they had our money, plus their own money, plus oil money, and they were funding every major terrorist network out there trying to get us. Well, all those things are happening, except they don't have the funding anymore, and they've lost most of their infrastructure. So, do I want there to be a war? Do I want us to be imperialist? No. And I'd say largely we have not been. Meaning, imperialist meaning that we stepped in, we fought wars, and then we left. And we helped those countries rebuild for the most part.
Yep.
So there's a fine line. I want us to be America first, and there's a whole lot of debt and problems and homeless and veterans that are not taken care of and fraud that need to be addressed. I don't want us to be the policemen of the world, but the truth is, we are the beacon for the free world. So we have to do some of that, but I want to do as little as possible, and I want to empower other governments to pay their fair share. Like I loved what happened with NATO, where Trump said, fine, then we'll pull out if you don't pay your 2%. Because some of them weren't even paying their 2% of their GDP, and we were spending all the money for all of those NATO defense systems that we hope we never have to use.
Yeah.
And so he began to shift that dynamic. So I think that generally what Trump does, I'm happy with. How he says it and what he says is often a bit questionable. I don't think it's fair to completely tear him apart. Like, for instance, I don't have Tucker's perspective. I've listened to Tucker's perspective, but I don't have Tucker's perspective. I'm trying to be as limited as we can, but if freedom is not preserved here, and we are not willing to exert some influence, which means at times we make bad mistakes. We're not, our hands are not clean. No country's hands are clean. We have a problem. So we have to. I don't mind that Tucker's calling it out because it does need to be discussed. He just seems to have turned into a man of extremes. And not the most consistent man of extremes.
I like the word discuss there because I love we can have more discussions, more debate. Now there is this kind of, people are saying there's division, and there is. As you know, off camera, we've talked about it. I'm more of a Tucker perspective.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my friend.
And I hear you. But the thing is, reconciling a lot of the younger generation who's kind of like, what, no wars, versus the older generation is like, no, we're for a strong defense. So I think reconciling those differences, because
war and defense are not the same thing.
I understand, but the perspective, that's what I said of the younger ones, a lot of the crowd that I come around and kind of like help with, they're like America only, versus the America first, which is hard because the reality is there's a lot of nuances in those things. And reconciling, a lot of the older ones are dismissing, but all the younger ones are saying that they're out of touch. So there is a lot of that going on, and also bigger discussion. It goes into the Israel, goes to the war stuff.
There should be a discussion, but if you read history, if you allow, for instance, America largely stayed out of World War I till the end. We largely stayed out of World War II until it was several years in, till we were attacked. If we had dealt with some of those before Germany created this huge army, or if we had dealt with Japan before, that doesn't necessarily mean war. That might have meant treaties. That might have meant creating economic alliances where they would have to cut off their nose if they wanted to fight us. In other words, you set up an economic system where it's beneficial for both sides. Now it's a lot harder to go to war with somebody where you're both mutually doing really well. So I think if we had been more proactive earlier on, not necessarily war, maybe treaties, maybe expectations, maybe making it clear, we could have potentially avoided those two world wars. So I would recommend that the younger generation, they read some history and realize that this is not simple.
You see this work. I hear the debate all the time. It'd be great, a future show, have a strong, even to a Zionist neocon versus like a Matt White. I call that Matt White, or another one that kind of takes that younger perspective. That'd be a great discussion because I think we could still find common ground. I think what happens, there's a lot of demonization of things. Like the Candace and the Andrew Wilson debate.
Well, like the idea that Israel's all good or all bad.
I hear you.
They're not. They're neither.
I could support the biblical Israel, but I cannot support maybe the Israel government right now. Certain things, and their own people right now are not supporting a lot of actions of BB's stuff. So I think there's a lot of great things we can find common ground on.
No, but we have to remember that Israel is the only place in the Middle East that is a true democracy where freedom largely reigns. You can be an Arab Muslim and be an Israeli citizen as long as you're willing to feed into their civil society and not decide to blow people up. You can be a transgender Arab Muslim.
I hear you. Is it truly?
In other words, there's that much tolerance in Israel.
So, folks, you're hearing a great topic there because a lot will say, some younger folks will say, but really, are they really truly free? Are they really being oppressors of those who are not free? Are they really having free elections when somebody's been constantly BB's been in power for so long? Are all these different things? I could say a lot more, but
I think that's fair. But they have a parliamentary system. I don't think that is a good system. Mm-hmm. That's a fault of the system they set up as opposed to what we have. They have basically like the same system that Canada has, where you can have basically Gavin Newsom light Trudeau idiot run your country for years.
See, I could say Hamas is a terrorist organization, still say Israel is killing people. You know what I mean? I could say both things could be true at the same time. I think, though, I call on for more accountability for those who are, like you said, the Democratic, the one that's the most free there in the Middle East, because they're our closest ally, some will say, quote unquote. We should hold them accountable, not be spying on us, and then trying to, strong arm us in APAC and try to mess up our system. There's a lot of stuff that Israel.
That is a dense, tangled web.
Yes.
But now that we've got every bit of it solved and we're out of time,
I see. Oh, yeah.
We're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
So, folks, I thank you. Like I say, kind of a different show. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. All of those help us in the algorithm. I want to say thank you to everybody that was kind enough that made it through all this. I hope you have a great day. Get out there. Opportunities are in the U.S. Opportunities that the rest of the world is fighting for. They're fighting to get here just to have our freedom and opportunity. Go out and seize the day. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist. Thank you, folks.